precise. And coming up next is the Technical University of Dresden, the TU Dresden. And telling us more about the TU Dresden, we have the speaker who is Frau Paternoster. Frau Paternoster, I see Frau Julia Paternoster is already with us there. Herzlich willkommen. Welcome to the webinar.
Hi.
Now, before I ask you to start off, I would just like to maybe read out a little something about the TU. And to start off, yes, it's among one of the 11 German universities of excellence. So there was an excellence initiative in Germany, and a handful was selected because of outstanding qualities of that university. And Dresden happens to be one of those. This means high quality research and high quality study programs offered at the university with a focus on engineering and science. And that's as much as I would like to say for the time being. And I would hand over now the floor to Ms. Paternoster.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Yeah, this is me. I am trying to share my presentation with you. Here we are. To get started. Okay. Yeah. As was already mentioned, we are one of the 11 universities of excellence in Germany. And I'm going to try to give you more information about the university itself, but also about our city and the programs that we offer. And I will focus on our master's programs mainly and our PhD programs that we have. First of all, I'm not sure that all of you know where Dresden actually is. Dresden is in the eastern part of Germany. We are 2 hours south of Berlin, close to the Czech border. We are a pretty big city in German terms, so that means about 500,000 inhabitants. I know that in Indian dimensions that's pretty small, but trust me, in Germany that's quite a good size for a city. We are a very dynamic city, so we are still growing. We have lots of young families living here, lots of students. And let's show you some pictures. We are very cultural diverse city with a lot of offerings in terms of theaters, museums, art and culture. We are a very green city, as you can see on the picture down there. We have very many parks. We have a river flowing through the city. And in general, the city offers high quality of life at moderate living costs. I will go into the costs couple of slides later, so bear with me. And lastly, we are also close to very nice natural landscapes, like, for example, the Elbe Sandstone Mountains that you can see down there in the picture. And there are a plethora of other activities that you can do here in the city, but also outside of the city. And we are very well located. So as I said, we are 2 hours south from Berlin. We are also 2 hours from Prague, the capital of the Czech Republic. And also we are connected to all other big cities in Germany and Europe by train or plane. Yeah, but let's get to the university. We are one of the oldest technical universities in Germany. So we were founded in 1828. But nowadays we are not only a technical university anymore. So we have 5 different schools, a School of Science, of Engineering, of Medicine, of Humanities and Social Sciences, as well as a school for Civil and Environmental Engineering. Currently, there are about 35,000 students. 5,000 of them are international students. I also put the number here for Indian students. So we have 295 Indian students currently. That's the second largest group that we have here of international students. And they also form a vibrant community here in Dresden. So we have even a university group of Indian students that organize regular meetings and celebrations. Like, for example, in a week, I think there's a big Holi celebration, and we also have Diwali celebrations. So there's a lot of things going on in this community. Our students can choose from more than 120 degree programs. I will tell you in a second what kind of degrees we offer. There's also the link there, so please feel free to get more information about all the programs in detail on this website. The qualifications that we offer, generally speaking, are mainly undergraduate degrees and graduate degrees, so bachelor and master's programs. The bachelor programs are for 3 years and the masters are for 2 years. We also have some traditional German degrees like the diploma and the state examination, but I won't focus on them now because most of our undergraduate degrees, or actually all of them, are taught in German. And as for the master's programs, we have several master's programs in English. That's why I will focus on that. But please feel free to ask anything you would like to know about our German taught degrees, and we will try to answer this after the webinar. Of course, you can also do a PhD here at TU Dresden. Usually it's a 3 to 4 years period that you do research here. But let's talk about the masters first. We have 13 English taught master's programs, mostly in engineering, civil and environmental engineering, and science. So the first block or group down there on the slide are the civil and environmental engineering master's programs that we have. In the middle, you have the engineering programs, and on the right-hand side, you have the science-related English taught master's programs. And as you can see in the science area, they are heavily focusing on bioengineering, regenerative biology and medicine, nanobiophysics. So these are like some of the hot topics that we have here in Dresden, also in cooperation with a lot of the external research organizations here in Dresden. So what do these master's programs offer, generally speaking? First of all, of course, they offer excellent study conditions. So we have a very low professor-student ratio for these programs. They have extra buddy programs, extra tutors that take care of the students coming here to study. We have excellent lab facilities for these programs. And as I said, we have a great network with external research institutions, like, for example, Fraunhofer or Max Planck institutions, and others that cooperate with a lot of these programs for internships, for example, or for study jobs. Second of all, they are highly international, so we have a lot of double degrees and integrated exchange semesters in these programs. That means when you, for example, study computational logic here at TU Dresden, you are required to continue your program after one semester here at one of our partner universities. For example, TU Vienna is one of them in Austria, or also the Nova Lisboa in Portugal. So it is required of you to move in Europe. It's not optional, actually. And of course, these programs are very attractive also to international students. So there are a lot of international students enrolled in these programs, sometimes even more than 50%. And lastly, the funding issue. So TU Dresden in general does not charge any tuition fees. I will later on show you how much you have to pay to study here in Dresden. And some of these master's programs even have some small scholarship schemes. So it always pays off to get all the info about our programs and to find out whether they have any kind of scholarship scheme going for the program. Because in general, there are not many scholarships for Indian students to come here, specific scholarships to come here. For all these master's programs information, there's a special website again, which I also put down on the slide. So please, if you're interested, please check the website and get all the info there. I also brought a testimonial from one of our exchange students, actually. This is Saba. She's from IIT Roorkee, and she's currently doing an exchange semester, actually, with a DAD scholarship. And she's in materials engineering. And I would just want to read it out for you. TU Dresden offers a comprehensive, friendly, and authentically caring environment. Representatives are always interested in how I'm settling into Dresden as an international student, which is very comforting. It has given me access to a new culture and a new life. Being a DAD research fellow in TU Dresden, I'm learning a lot, getting an amazing level of advice and support from great people, which would be instrumental in developing my career as a researcher. So I found this really nice of her to say such nice things about us. And actually, there's also a specific tutor for this group, so they get a lot of extra input and extra care here, these students. Yeah, moving on from the masters to the PhDs. We actually have the possibility to do a PhD in all the subjects that we have, but there are certain ways to do it. So you can either choose the traditional German way and do independent research work under a supervisor, or you can choose the structured PhD that follows a set course schedule and includes also research work. So the structured model is more the American way and probably also a way that you are way more familiar with. But in Germany, the traditional way is still done by almost 75%, I would say, of our students. So bear that in mind if you're interested. The traditional way is also more complicated for international students because you need to find a supervisor before you actually start doing your PhD here. While as for the structured PhD, you just enroll in a program, hope that you are accepted, and then you can start. I also put down some of the international and structured programs that we have. So for example, we have an international PhD program in biomedicine and bioengineering, again, our focus. They also have some scholarships in that program, but it's highly competitive. So if you're interested in that, please make sure to get all the information beforehand. We have a lot of graduate schools and colleges, very small ones in engineering and sciences mainly. And we also have 8 programs with double or joint degrees. That means that you study at 2 institutions, so TU Dresden and a foreign institution, and get a PhD from both institutions usually. Yeah, concerning the requirements to study here, I just put down the requirements for the graduate programs and the PhD programs. If you're interested in a bachelor's program, please let me know. Please write us an email and I will try to give you all the answers. For the master's programs, usually you need a first university degree. So a bachelor in a related field, that means you cannot come here with a bachelor in business and economics, for example, and study a master in molecular bioengineering. That would not be possible. But for some master's programs, especially the English taught master's programs, they are quite open. So for example, it might be possible to study molecular bioengineering with a bachelor in computer science. You can always ask whether your bachelor is relevant to the field. You would also need knowledge of the language. So if it's a German medium course, you would need C1 in German. We already heard that in the presentation beforehand. So with us, it's C1. For the English taught master's programs, you would need a Toefl or IELTS test, B2 to C1. It really depends on the program. Make sure you check beforehand. Actually, if you have a bachelor from an English taught program in India, that would usually be sufficient. So make sure you clear this up before you apply. And then there might be other requirements depending on the program that you choose, like certain courses that you need to have passed in your bachelor studies or some kind of practical work that you need to have done beforehand. But I can't go into detail with that because we have so many programs and there would be a long list of exemptions. For the PhD studies, you would need a master's degree or an equivalent degree, so 5 years degree in total. And also knowledge of the language. This depends on your supervisor or the program that you chose. Again, it's usually German or English. And as I already mentioned, if you go the traditional way, you would need a supervisor from our university. Yeah, let's go into some details regarding the practicalities here for studying. As I mentioned, we don't charge any tuition fees. That's because we are a public university and we are in Saxony. So there are no costs for your courses or your exams or whatever you have to pay for in other countries. The only payment that is required is the semester fee. That's 270 euros roughly per semester, so for 6 months. And it usually includes the public transport ticket for Dresden and all the surrounding area. I actually put a map there on the site, so you can even go to Leipzig or other big cities in Saxony by train with this ticket. Apart from that, there are no costs for the university, no fees for the library, no fees for computer pools or whatever. Of course, you not only have to pay for the university, but you also have to pay for your living. So you have to bear in mind that the average student here needs about 680, 700 euros in Dresden for the rent and for other things like food, books, going to the cinema, whatever you are interested in. If you compare this to other cities in Germany, I also put a comparison down there on the slide. Dresden is comparatively well off in terms of living costs, so it's not that expensive. And it's also still possible to find a flat or place in a student hall if you take action early enough. So, yeah. And lastly, let's talk a bit about the other activities that you can do here. Because, of course, we don't want you to just study and not also enjoy life. So we have a lot of things to offer. The city has a lot of things to offer. I just put down some of the things that might be interesting to you. We have a lot of student clubs and initiatives, like we have a cultural office, for example, that organizes excursions and cultural gatherings and celebrations. We have a university sports center where you can go for a very, very minimal fee and do sports each week, like, for example, volleyball or canoeing or mountain climbing or whatever floats your boat. I think we even have a cricket team now in Dresden. I know that it's very popular in India, but in Germany it's, hardly known. So, but we also have a team in Dresden for cricket. There are lots of art clubs and other kind of artsy clubs, like we have a theater group, there's a university orchestra, a folk dance group. You have faculty-related clubs like robotics or a race car team and other kinds of activities. There are also academic activities, like, for example, our career service, where you can choose to attend lectures and seminars about how to foster your career, how to improve your skills, your soft skills. And there are, as I said, many, many, many other groups and activities that you can join here at TU Dresden, and we actually want you to join them. Yeah, that's it for my presentation. Now I hope there are lots of questions. Please ask whatever you are interested in. And I hand over to the host.
To me, I believe. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Patanosa. That was a very interesting and very well-structured presentation indeed. And as far as questions go, rest assured there are many, probably more than we can attempt to answer here right now. But I have made some notings here that you can probably not read, but fine. I'll just tick off some of these questions, I think. You may not have all the answers because they are very varied, these questions, but I'll simply shoot off by asking. First question was by Rehan, and he was asking for admission. Is it a direct admission, direct application to the university, or does it work through Uni Assist?
That's a good question. Yes, we also cooperate with Uni Assist. So all the applications go through Uni Assist. You apply to Uni Assist and they hand them over to us. Yep.
All right. Thank you so much for that clarification. Now, there were a lot of people, I noticed a few names, Prashant and Ananya, were asking about undergraduate programs in engineering, whether there are some that your university offers. I know that you covered the PhDs and the masters very thoroughly. Thank you so much for that. That was very useful. What about undergraduates?
Of course, we have a lot of undergraduate degrees in engineering and sciences. Actually, most of them are in this field, but as I said, most of them are taught in German. So we have all the general, commonly known engineering programs, like we have mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, computer science, mathematics, physics, chemistry, and so on. And yeah, just check the links. It's all there, but it's in German.
Right.
The program is in German.
Okay. So I think this is, thank you so much for this answer. There were a lot of questions which were very precise. I'm looking for a bachelor's in environmental engineering. Okay. I'm looking for a master's in bio something engineering. Yeah. So there are many questions of this type. So students who have joined us here, you will understand that at this point of time, I think taking individual questions just for the benefit of one person may be a little difficult to do. So we've tried to club questions which I think address larger issues. And for your individual ones, you will hear from us in the coming days. But for now, I think I'll pick up the next question, which is relevant. It's related to the cost of studies And even though you have answered it, I know during your presentation, I think cost factor is important. Ram was asking about the cost of studies at the TU Dresden. How much would it cost to study? Tuition fees, which...
Yeah, I mean, it would be for like half a year, you would pay the 270 euros. That's all you pay for studying, and then you just pay for living. So that means the rent, as I said, 680 euros per month. So if we calculate that, 36,000 something, make it whatever. I'm not at math anymore.
No, you don't have to do the math. Yeah, please don't. That was not the intention.
My calculation. But no, anyway, you can just calculate with, let's say, 700 euros per month. So that would be like 42,000 euro, 44,200 euros for half a year, plus 270 euros, let's say 5,000 euros. It really depends on how people prefer to live, how many books they want to buy, what kind of, if they take notes on their laptop or if they need paper and so on. So,
right.
That's what I would.
Thank you for this. I think this makes it pretty much clear that it's a very cost-effective, viable option to study at Dresden.
Definitely.
Moving on to another question that is being asked by Renuka and by Shashikesh and so forth. A number of you have asked this question. Does the university accept 3-year bachelor's degrees for admission to the master's program?
Usually they do. I cannot give a definite answer. It really depends on what kind of bachelor is it, from which university, and so on. So I would recommend to those people to just, send an email and specify what kind of bachelor degree are they, pursuing, or what do they have, and then we can answer the question. But usually, yes.
All right, that's good to know. Thank you so much for this. Moving on to the next question, Indrajit was asking, he has a degree which he has obtained through a distance learning mode. So, Fernstudium. Yeah. Are such degrees accepted by the university? Maybe I can just say something before you pitch in. From my knowledge, universities do not accept degrees that have been obtained through a distance mode of learning from Indian candidates. But if the TU Dresden can share more, then I would be happy.
No, actually, I can't give any more information than you already did. So. Exactly.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think it's rather difficult, and as far as I know, these are not accepted. But I still wanted to clarify because there were a couple of people who had asked those questions. I'm ticking this off. Sujin, one of the students, was asking if he has what we call in the Indian context a gap year, which means there's a year gap in your studies. You've not completed it within, let's say, 4 years' time. That was the standard. You took 5 years to complete it, for example.
Yep.
Or after completing it, you didn't study for an additional year, and then you apply for admission to Dresden. Does that put you at a disadvantage?
No, usually a year is not a problem. I mean, we also have gap years here in Germany, so many students after their bachelor, they work, for example, or they go abroad for a year, so this would not be a problem, no.
Okay, that's good. Okay, Sujin has an answer there. That's wonderful. Now, there were also some questions related to job prospects and job-oriented courses. Ajo Matthews was asking in the beginning whether you have any short-term job-oriented courses. I don't know.
You mean like just for a year or something? What is a short-term year? I mean,
that's difficult to define. There was nothing further. Unfortunately, that's all I had. But
I see it on the Q&A feed. Usually, I mean, we have a Center for Continuous Education. I think that's the translation. And but they don't really offer any short-term programs for international students. We have some very, very few masters that are considered Aufbaustudiengänge, so they are also like continuing master's programs, but not really a 2 years master program. But they are very few. I don't think we have what Ajo was asking for. No. I mean, we have some students that come here for some months for like an internship, for example. work in labs or collaborate with professors, but we don't really have any short-term job-oriented programs.
Great. That's perfectly fine. But staying with the topic of jobs, there were some questions also about job prospects after completing a master's. So a number of candidates, including Kunal, had inquired about the job prospects after. So can you maybe do you have some statistics of your students in general, how they cut off and where they go?
Actually, we don't have those kind of statistics for international students. Yeah, that's something we are working on. But I know personal experience is not that great in terms of statistics, but I know that our master's graduates, especially those in the English taught master's programs, they do really well. I would say 80–90% go somewhere. Many of them actually go on to do a PhD in their field, not only in Dresden, of course, but they just go everywhere in the world.
Right.
Indians, for example, like to go to the US afterwards. And but also in Europe, there are lots of prospects for PhD candidates, for example.
Okay. So I think that's a good time for me to ask you some questions about PhDs, because there were a lot of questions also that have come for PhDs, and I've where is it? Yeah, the first of all, is English proficiency a Toefl score or an IELTS score necessary if you're applying for a PhD position? That was a question. I don't have the name of the person asking that right now, but
don't worry. Usually no. For the currently it's not regulated for the PhD candidates. At least not for the traditional PhD programs, or for the traditional way. Because the main aim is that the professor and also the supervisor and the candidate understand each other. We also had a student doing it in Russian, for example, because the professor spoke Russian fluently, and the student also continued working at his home university. So no for the traditional PhDs.
All right, that's good. And
to have an okay level.
Great. Fine. There were some questions related to the structured PhD, and Swaroop was one of the people asking about what exactly is it and how do I apply for it. So I think, would you be nice enough to maybe just say a few sentences about how the structured PhD admissions work at the TU Dresden?
Again, there are different models for the programs, like the international program for bioengineering I mentioned. They have a program website, and you just apply for their deadlines and hand in your application. So motivational letter, your project ideas, or what you want to do research on. So it's basically like applying to the university. It's a course you apply to, and then you are either accepted or not. For the graduate schools, it's a bit different. Sometimes there are also just calls for applications, like for this other program, and sometimes there are also positions posted on our website that feed into these schools. So if you're interested in that, I really recommend the website of our graduate academy. I think the link was also on the slide, and just find all the links to the application websites there. There's also a site there that lists all the currently open positions for PhD candidates. So if you want to apply for a PhD post, you can find it there on one page.
Great, thank you so much. Now, as I can make out, even this half hour was not enough really to convey everything that needs to be conveyed, because there are a lot of unanswered questions open still, and I apologize to the attendees that we haven't been able to address it straight away. But please rest assured that the University of Dresden will get back to you, because we will share the log with them. And I think at this point, I would like to thank our panelist, Frau Julia Paternoster, very, very much for giving this wonderful presentation. Thank you for being with us. And we look forward to the next time we can cooperate.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening, and I'm looking forward to your emails.
So emails Frau Paternoster will surely receive lots because, as I said, there are many questions that we could not address, unfortunately.